Liberal Party has won the federal election and is set to form Canada's next government. But it is not yet clear if they would hold a majority in Parliament. The Liberal Party has clinched new term in power after Carney convinced voters that his experience managing economic crises prepared him to confront U.S. President Donald Trump. After the win, the newly elected Prime Minister has said that his country should never forget the lessons of the United States, quote, betrayal. Carney told cheering supporters in Ottawa that they will win this trade war. But he did warn of challenging days ahead brought on by Trump's tariffs and annexation threats.
The system of open global trade, anchored by the United States, a system that Canada has relied on since the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped deliver prosperity for a country for decades, is over. These are tragedies, but it's also our new reality. We are over the shock of the American betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons.
Results show Liberals are far ahead of Conservatives, but have fallen short of a 172-seat mark by 4 seats. Mark Carney has effectively managed to win the 4th Liberal term, while his consecutive rival, Pierre Poilievre, is poised to get only 144 seats. Counting is still underway, but it's highly unlikely that the trend will change. Pierre Poilievre has conceded the defeat, congratulating Prime Minister Mark Carney. He said Canadians have opted for a razor-thin minority government.
Canadians have opted for a razor-thin minority government, a virtual tie in the vote count. So I would like to congratulate Prime Minister Carney on leading this minority government.
Meanwhile, Jagmeet Singh, who led Canada's opposition New Democratic Party in this election, has lost his own seat of Burnaby, conceding defeat. Singh announced that he plans to step down from the position of party leader.
Tonight, I've been informed a party leader that I'll be stepping down as party leader as soon as an interim leader can be appointed. Now, I could not have done this incredible job without, here's a point, give me a second to break down a bit. I couldn't have done it without the incredible support of my wife. Could get it?
U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs and threats of annexing Canada stood as the central issue in the election. Trump inserted himself into the race early in the day with a social media post saying Canada would face zero tariffs if it became the cherished 51st state. Poilievre hit back firmly and said, President Trump, stay out of our election. Carney also weighed in saying, this is Canada and we decide what happens here. Remember, Carney replaced Justin Trudeau, who was the focus of opposition attacks about inflation, high immigration levels, and a housing crisis. The 60-year-old ex-central banker had no prior political experience before running to become Liberal leader earlier this year. That's Carney. He billed himself as someone who knows how to negotiate and how to manage a crisis. Trump's involvement not only infuriated many Canadians, but also put Poilievre and the Conservative Party on the back foot. All right, joining me now is Harrison Faulkner, who is our reporter on the ground in Toronto. Harrison, great to see you. Tell us about the mood on the ground right now where you are. We saw some visuals of Mark Carney dancing after victory.
Yeah, well, it's tough to really get a sense of the mood so far, but I can tell you for certain that Conservatives are shell-shocked this morning, trying to desperately find answers for what is clearly a significant collapse. Despite having strong popular vote results, it still has been a major collapse for the Conservative Party. And I think liberals are extremely relieved that they've managed to pull this off in stunning fashion, a comeback for the political ages. Mark Carney and the liberals were down 25 points at the start of this election. Now they are forming a minority government with Poilievre already losing his own seat in parliament. A stunning day in Canadian politics, and one that is going to, although be a slim minority, it's going to impact this country for many years.
Yeah, really, how exceptional was that? Because the whole world was really watching these Canadian elections. It wasn't just in Canada. I want to ask about the congratulations that Carney is getting from world leaders. But what about our president, President Trump here? Can you talk more about why he played such a pivotal role in these elections, and also comments made by both sides regarding President Trump that ultimately became this focal point in Canadian elections, I assume?
Well, I mean, both leaders had to make their case as to why they were the best person to handle Donald Trump. And that kind of comes down to who's going to be tougher, who's going to be stronger against Donald Trump. There's no votes to be gained in this country by playing alongside Trump and being kind of friendly and cordial with Donald Trump, especially when he talks about Canada being annexed by the United States and when he talks about tariffs. So both leaders had to position themselves as opposing Donald Trump, and clearly Carney came out on top when it came to that particular ballot question. In the large scheme of things, of course, when you win an election in a G7 country, especially a country like Canada, the world is watching, the world is paying attention. Mark Carney himself is really the ultimate globalist. That is sort of his brand as a central banker in multiple countries and playing a role at the World Economic Forum, for example, being such a global face. Of course, he's going to have a lot of connections around the world. And this really shows that what we thought with the election of Donald Trump and some of the results in Europe as the era of globalism coming to an end, Mark Carney is kind of bucking that trend. This era of liberalism and globalism, at least in Canada, is not going away anytime soon.
Absolutely fascinating. And finally, Harrison, while I have you, help us, me and our viewers, understand how different or similar is he from Justin Trudeau? And ultimately, do you think that he'll be able to bring Canada together with the Conservatives as well?
When you compare Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau, the most obvious thing that separates the two is that Mark Carney clearly has a resume to back himself up that Justin Trudeau didn't have. Mark Carney is not the retail politician, the handshaker and the selfie taker that Justin Trudeau was. He seems to be more focused on the work and less on the retail aspect of politics. I think that's a major difference that is resonating with Canadians because of Justin Trudeau's unpopularity. When it comes to uniting the country, I think that's going to be Mark Carney's biggest task, his most challenging task in what is going to be a tight minority parliament. We're already seeing issues with Western separatism rising in this country, a real sense of betrayal that Albertans and Saskatchewanians are feeling with Ottawa, a feeling as though they are just being left behind by Ottawa. That is going to become a significant issue. That separatism is going to rise, and so is separatism issues in Quebec. The Quebec provincial parliament is set to elect a separatist government at a provincial level, the Parti Québécois. And that is going to also raise some serious questions and issues for Mark Carney. So uniting the country is going to be his most difficult task.
Very interesting. Well, Harrison, thank you so much for being our eyes and ears on the ground as we try to make sense of what's happening in Canada, and for your thorough analysis. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thank you.